It's a beautiful day for talking about video games.
Woo!
Here we are today. How are you, Mr.
I lo-
Raptor?
I love how that just became the intro. It's a beautiful day.
It's a
Every day
beautiful
it's
day.
a beautiful day.
It
when it's
always
a podcast.
is. It always is. It's a wonderful day to be alive. And
Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
No, I'm doing well. Whoa, I'm seeing myself now on screen. That's okay. Yeah, it's okay, looking good. No, yeah, when you like work from home all the time, you're like not really looking at yourself, but now I'm live. So, hello everyone, good to see everyone, and yeah, I got this banana that I'm gonna eat, so I'm gonna throw it to you. I'm doing well. I'm doing well.
Good.
You're busy, right? You
Oh
just
yeah.
came back from the trip.
Just came back from the trip. We bought a house yesterday. We are thank you. We are pretty much moving in the moment we wrap this up, which is why we're gonna keep this show very lean, very to the point. Because
Yeah.
pretty much once we wrap this up, I turn off the computers and then I start loading everything out. So this is probably the last thing that's going to happen in this studio. So everybody just take it in. Yeah, it's crazy.
One more time.
One more time. Here we go. We have a handful of things to talk about. We never got to chat about Assassin's Creed Mirage because, of course, I was away like a party pooper. So we're going to talk about that. We've got some news to discuss relating to Assassin's Creed Mirage in general. We also have some stuff, a little debate I got into. It wasn't even really a debate. It was a smackdown, but a mean tweet I sent out towards another YouTuber about CD Projekt Red and their finances. We have information on the Last of Us multiplayer game that is seemingly on ice, maybe sort of kind of, and discussions about a God of War sequel. So a handful of things that we can chat about.
Cool. I want to quickly talk about the chat because everyone is I'm cool to see that everyone is happy to see me. So thank you. I'm interested to see what your thinks of Mirage. Well, we're gonna talk about that. Justin is asking if I got time to play Baldur's Gate 3. Not yet. Like right now, I've been like playing Mirage for like 50 hours, and I'm lucky enough to already have Spider-Man 2. So I'm now playing that, and I cannot say anything else about that. So I'm like going from game to game. But after that, there is this sort of in-between period between Spidey 2 and Avatar that I will also cover on the channel. So I will probably not. I'm kind of scared, to be honest. Like that game is too big.
It's a lot.
I might do it like in January. That seems like the perfect January game.
That's the dangerous thing, though. We've all assumed that like January, February are going to be dry because in the years past they have.
No.
This year, yeah, like February now after Elden Ring and everything, it's just started getting slapped with big releases.
Did you see like the rumor that the DLC for Elden Ring might launch in February as well?
I mean, they were saying like February 5th is what it was rumored for.
Yeah. So Suicide Squad is like, please, hello, anyone.
Yeah, stop kicking them while we're down.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll see what happens with Suicide Squad too.
That's
one that just nobody's talking about. Everybody's already kind of forgotten about it. That's gonna be fun.
I'm looking forward to your video. It's like they did not change anything like a year later, and it's like,
did they fix Suicide Squad? No, they didn't.
No. Okay, so let's talk about Mirage. We actually got some hot news because they shared. I was like curious because I was like looking at the UK charts. Mirage, of course, came out October 5th, so last week. And normally when a game does well, publishers will shout it from the rooftops. And especially now, Ubisoft needs some wins because the last big game they really had was Far Cry 6 2 years ago. And in the UK, it was number 2, below FC like 24, so the new FIFA game. So I was like, not too great. Although that game is, of course, huge, especially in the UK. But now we have some info. So the number of players are in line with Origins and Odyssey at launch, which is pretty good, I would say.
That's pretty good for a spin-off title. Like, not bad.
Yeah. And of course, like Odyssey did start like really like there was not a lot of hype around launch because everyone's like a year after Origins, it looks a lot like Origins. And then the word of mouth really like helped it propel to like the big success that it was. And it was of course very close to Red Dead Redemption 2 as well. That did not help either. And they say biggest new gen launch in terms of unit sales to date at Ubisoft. So yeah, that is only on PS5 and Xbox Series X and S. And I see a lot of like people run with that, but I always like to, because you must think of it like this. There's like a marketing department at Ubisoft. They got the numbers. They're like, how can we spin this? How can we make this like the biggest win ever? Yeah, it's like the biggest new gen launch in terms of unit sales to date. What does that mean? Well, the only games you can really compare it to are Far Cry 6 and Valhalla. Valhalla came out at the launch of the PS5 and Xbox Series.
Yeah.
So obviously the new gen sales were not going to be big for that. Far Cry 6, though, a year later, but there were still like only 20 million consoles out for both of them, or 10 million maybe for Xbox, 20 million for PlayStation. So, and of course there were like, just supply constraints. So it's like kind of hard to compare it. Like we're now 3 years into this new generation. Obviously, more people will buy games for PS5 and Xbox Series. So
yeah,
kind of like a non thing.
It is funny because they always do. It's like you're saying, where the marketing department just tries to figure it out. I always just imagine they get the Excel spreadsheet and they just start messing with the pivot tables and trying to filter by this and prioritize and make it in the ascending order of this stat and just see what they can do. I mean, at the very least, it seems that it was moderately successful, and they're phrasing it as a major accomplishment, as something that the Bordeaux studio should be very proud of.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
So it seems that they're pleased with how it's been received and how it's performed, and hopefully that means that they greenlight more of these stealth-oriented projects in the future.
Yeah, 100%. And we know that the Bordeaux studios also, like, I was able to go there to their old office because next year they're going into a new office. So right now they have like 400 plus developers, and some of those developers are also like helping other Ubisoft studios. But now they're moving to a new studio with 700 people. So they're almost doubling in size. And you're not doing that to be like another support studio, I think. So I think they're totally going to move forward, and would not be surprised if like Tom Henderson next year is like, hey, the Mirage team is making like a real old school game with the budget and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, just imagine what an actual full production AAA stealth oriented game, like from the moment they announced Mirage and framed it as a return to roots, the community's been lit on fire. I mean, the old school Assassin's Creed fans are all about it, and they've made it very clear of what they kind of hope to see and expect. Like unanimous critiques of Mirage have been like the AI. They would like to see more stealth and parkour stuff kind of expanded, so bring back Unity style of parkour, really invest in that heavily. And so they know what they need to do to make that full production big budget version of it successful. And that, I mean, now they seemingly have the mandate. They have released something relatively successful as far as we can tell from these kind of obscure stats. And so who knows, in a handful of years we might see them take another whack at it with a full production budget, and I'm here for it.
Don't have to hurry either, because we got Red next year, then we have like two like the multiplayer game that is seemingly like bigger, like probably like For Honor style, so will probably be sold for like full price as well. And then we have Hexe, so it will probably be after that. We have the Black Flag remake. So unless they're gonna like launch two big games in 1 year, I think the next game from Bordeaux will be some time, but that will really give them finally the time to make this something that we really wanted. Because I think Mirage is more like a taste, right? It's like we still got it. We still know that, and it just shows that a game like this is still really, really cool in this day and age. Now it is interesting that they're saying number of players, while with Origins and Odyssey and Valhalla they said biggest revenue. Like obviously, and I see that in my community as well, it's like pretty interesting to see. Like I mostly have like the RPG fans in my community, and it's like, I wish there was more content. Like I'm done in a weekend. we said that like from the get-go, obviously, but it's fun to now see the other side. It's kind of like, hey, I wanted more. But yeah. But like, let's talk about the game, because I think you pointed out some interesting things. And those were like kind of my critiques. Like I think just looking at it from what this product and what they're like, they were given the Valhalla tools, and what they ended up with is like pretty amazing. But it also is not that push forward, like they're just bringing stuff back instead of really expanding on it. And my biggest thing, and that was that I did think they could have done more with, is the sort of memorable and sort of big story moments that were now really at the beginning and at the end, and in between it just felt like another story arc for Valhalla. Not sure what you think of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way I phrased it in my review is I felt that narratively the game starts out pretty interestingly with some varied characters and everything, but within an hour it's really pivoted and it just turns into this thing where everybody's acting like they have the flu and everybody's super just mellow, and we have to get here and take out this target and do this thing, and it's because we're hardcore like that. And it just got very, very dry. And I thought that was kind of a bummer, because so many of these Assassin's Creed games, when you look back and you actually look at the main cast of characters, whether you look way back to like AC2, you know, you have characters like Leonardo, or you go to like AC3 is a bad example because that was pretty dry as well, but like even in AC4 you have a lot of very, very memorable characters. Unity had a lot. Syndicate, some people argue Syndicate had too many memorable characters because it started to feel very like kitschy, but like they've always tried to do that. And then with Mirage it's just like generic assassin number 4 that talks in a gravelly voice, and that was for me kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing, like my biggest takeaway was, like you said, it was a good taste of what they could do if they were given the full budget and a brand new tool set, or the ability to work on their own tool set. Because remnants of Valhalla were painfully evident. There's still like the weird clunkiness with stealth. One thing Mr. Matty Plays pointed out, which I totally agree with, is the mapping of the assassination button to the light attack button is baffling, because you will many times accidentally attack someone when you mean to assassinate them, just because the button trigger didn't work properly for whatever reason. So that's like a little quirk. But more than anything, the biggest thing I had with it was AI. I felt that it was clear it was Valhalla's stealth AI and not Origins. Like Origins blew me away with some of the stuff they'd have NPCs do, where they find a dead body, they pick it up, they move it outside of the compound in a fort, and they move all the dead bodies there, and then later they collect them or take them away to be buried. Like the AI was surprisingly intelligent in Origins.
I think they had during night also like different ways they would like engage, right? If I remember correctly, like that was also pretty cool.
They had their own like beds assigned, sleep schedules, homes. Like they had so much stuff in Origins. And then Odyssey, they walked a lot of it back. It was still there. They'd still like take bodies away, but it was a little toned back. And then Valhalla, they just stripped all of it out, because they're like, you're a Viking, you're going to be smashing people with hammers. You don't like, we don't need to do all of that complicated AI simulation. And it's just clear that that's what they were using for Mirage. And I think if they had the Origin tool set, it could have been significantly better, just for those cool dynamic AI things that could happen. But also, I mean, I think like a lot of people have said, it's not a great game. It's not going to win any crazy awards, but for what they were trying to do, which was to give old school fans a little something to enjoy and kind of as a trip down memory lane, I think it succeeded in that pursuit. And I think that's cool.
But now that I like also I named the game, like it's on one hand really cool that they got all the time now to make this like hopefully bigger game and stuff. But on the other hand, it will probably be 5 years then, or like 4 years. So it will be a while. And in that, then we will be at the like 20th anniversary of the series before we can really probably go back to a bigger game like this. Of course, we will have to wait and see what Hexe is, but
it's going to be so interesting though. Like we're talking about 5 years. Oh, we got to wait 5 years. But like you said earlier, they have a lot of stuff lined up. It's not like there's going to be a drought of Assassin's Creed stuff. And if anything, we might be totally fatigued with Assassin's Creed by that point, because there is a lot that's on the schedule already. So it just seems that Ubisoft, you know, they're looking at having every year a different game of different scope and scale. And I think that's important just to remind everybody that might be a passing fan, because I heard a couple of reviewers say things kind of offhandedly that could lead to major, I think, mismatched expectations. It was one thing I heard in Maddie's review. I also heard it in, I think I read VGC's review, but they basically said that the franchise was moving back away from the open world RPG stuff, and they were moving towards stealth. And I think it's very important, and we should be very clear that that's not what's happening. This was an individual project that was trying that. There are still plenty of big, huge games, seemingly with RPG elements and stuff, that are still coming. It's
100%.
Yeah.
And you kind of see the DNA still here, because there are still like these item packs, and I've been toying around with them, like the Fire Demon pack, which is just basically you're playing Valhalla again, but in this city, and it's kind of funny, but it's also like so out of place. And they keep adding these packs, like they're not done. Like I thought maybe at launch they have 3 packs, okay, but no. They will add more, even though there's no like post-launch. So you really see Ubisoft's ambition, because now they have these numbers, but what we saw with Origins and Odyssey is that they went up. And I don't think that's going to happen for Mirage. I think it's going to launch. Everyone had a great time. Next week, we're talking about Spider-Man. And then around Christmas, some people will pick it up. But next year, I don't think anyone will talk about this game anymore, sadly. But that is what Ubisoft is looking for, and in particular for these big games that they put. I don't think like that's the case for Mirage, like 100 million maybe in terms of budget. But like, yeah, if they spend that much money, they want people to play it for a really long time, and that is indeed what Red is going to be. Hexe probably as well, the multiplayer game. So yeah, you still see that is what they want. So it's interesting. Like maybe Red, we are hearing rumors though that the stealth will be significantly improved, but then it will probably be just one of the playstyles that you can choose.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting, but I think all told, Mirage has been exactly what they were trying to do, and it's not like surprising in how amazing it is. It's just, I think we both said high 70s is what we expected, and that's pretty much where it landed. And I think that they did what they needed to do, so I'm gonna give them.
Yeah, this was like the best case scenario, I think, for it, actually.
Yeah.
So, which is good, especially for like a new team that before this made Wrath of the Druids, which is like an expansion that was like not really that great.
Yeah.
Let's talk about. We want to move on already.
Sure. Yeah. This next little thing is a little funny. So I'll let Joe Raptor set it up, and then I'll.
Oh, really?
Okay. Yeah, I want to hear your setup for it.
So yeah, I saw some tweets like going around talking about how CD Projekt Red's like in the past month almost like 30% down their stock, which is pretty significant, and that is when they are expected to make like a ton of money, of course, with the Phantom Liberty DLC, and finally having that big update out. They're gonna do a complete edition later on as well, which bundles the DLC and the base game. But yeah, now a lot of people were like, wait, why is the stock going down? Are investors not having are they not like expecting them to do well? So that was kind of what I was seeing. It said that the Jude's had like tweet is not up. Because to be fair, and I wanted that, that's why I wanted to bring this up and hear your take on it. But to be fair, I am like of the investors that are looking at it short term, there's not going to be a lot happening with CDPR for the next few years, because the next game they have is a new Witcher game, and that's probably going to be 4 or 5 years. So what else are they going to do? They are stopping the support for Cyberpunk. That was really the final update we got. So what other money are they bringing in? Like that card game is not doing well either. So GOG also not doing well.
Yeah. I mean, basically, so this is I think a better worded version of it, but Synth Potato on Twitter, X, whatever, he tweeted out this, which pointed out the same kind of graph that Juice had pulled up, and basically pointed out it's down like 27%. in the last month at the time that he posted this. And that was surprising because they sold 3 million copies of Phantom Liberty in the first week, 20 million copies of Cyberpunk All Told. It's just weird. The game's successful. Why is the company failing? And how Juice had phrased it in a now deleted tweet was that it was a financial disaster. He said, apparently Phantom Liberty is a financial disaster for CDPR because their stock has dropped like this, seemingly in the realm of time since it launched. And what I replied, which I'll be fair, this was a little aggressive. I said, bro, Phantom Liberty is not a, quote, financial disaster for CDPR. All tech software stocks are struggling this quarter as the COVID balloon continues to pop. Cheap debt is expiring / unavailable, and that drives stock prices down. This isn't rocket science. Big corporate stocks like this don't hinge on singular releases of expansions. The pricing models are wildly complex. This is just misinformation born out of ignorance or laziness. And he deleted the tweet.
The final part.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah.
So the reason I said it's misinformation born out of ignorance or laziness is because I have a very, and I've said this before on stream, I don't think you have a right to be stupid. I think everybody, if you have the ability to make an informed statement or to understand something, you have a duty, especially if you're in a public space or if you have an audience, you have a duty to be as correct as you can. And Juicehead's a smart guy. It's one of the reasons I like Juicehead, honestly. Which is why this take was so bafflingly stupid and why I said either this is just straight up ignorance or it's laziness to not check the stats and dig a little bit deeper. Because by every metric, Phantom Liberty has been wildly successful. The reason the stock is dropping, in addition to what Joraptor said, which is that they have basically no cash flows lined up for the next handful of years. Gwent is kind of dying out. The mobile game is just not printing money. It's just not doing.
I mean,
what
they laid off the developers for that. I think it's winding down, right?
Yeah, they're like walking away from it because it's just, even Hearthstone, another card game, is winding down a lot. So that's not making money. GOG is not competing heavily against Epic or Steam. They have their fan base and their users, but I mean, it's Epic and Steam. Like they're not even close to those guys. And all of their other future games are years away. And investors were hoping that CDPR would come out and be like, remember we talked about multiplayer? We're bringing that back. We're doing it for Cyberpunk because everybody's loving Cyberpunk. We're going to bring that back. But instead they announced that they are done with Cyberpunk 2077 and they're moving on to the next thing. And that for investors was very disappointing because right now you're owning a stock where there's going to be no cash flow basically for a handful of years. And when that happens, the bids will come in and the value of the company will drop to represent what it's worth today with no money coming in. And just like if you bought a vending machine and you were told, hey, you can buy this vending machine for $1,000, but any money it makes, like any cans or anything that happen, or rather, let's keep it simple. Let's just say you buy it today and you can't actually buy sodas from it for the next year and a half. You'd be like, well, this is worth a lot less to me now. It's not worth $1,000 now. I valued it at $1,000, assuming I could sell cans of soda to people. But now you're telling me I can't get anything out of it for a year and a half. I'm going to lower the price I'm going to offer you. That's exactly what's happening here. It's not that complicated. And that's why I got kind of triggered at the statement that it's a financial disaster for CDPR when this isn't rocket science. This is simply a reflection of a lot of expanded projects that kind of flopped and have died out. So now all of the debt that they're going to be building these future games on is much more expensive for CDPR compared to what it was before, which was basically free money, where interest rates were below inflation, which is insane. Like where you can actually get more of a profit out of taking loans than keeping cash, which is insane. But we're coming out of a very special period in history, and now we're going kind of back to normal, and there's a ton of corrections taking place, and video game stocks are one of the most clear places to see adjustments because they involve a lot of money and a lot of time, and they come with big events of releases where a lot of money flows in and then not much after that. If CDPR had a big successful mobile game or a live service game that was producing money consistently, the stock would not have dropped anywhere near like this, but they don't. So
to be fair though, like the other stocks are doing pretty well. Like I'm looking at, of course, that these are publishers, but like EA and like Take-Two are all like up.
And they all have cash flows that are coming in. They all have
but then it's mostly about that part, right? And I thought that Juicehead was actually like talking about that pretty well, and also saying, I think a great point was that they're now moving to the US as well to make like studios there and get talent from the US, but that will cost them way more money than getting people from Poland. So
I was just gonna say, like, I have no disagreements with that. My problem with the initial tweet, which again I'd love to be able to show people, but we checked it on stream, it's not archived anywhere, and it's deleted now, so we can't pull it up. But my problem with the original tweet was just that Phantom Liberty was not a financial disaster. The reason the stock has been adjusted is because of many other things, which are very valid. I don't think, like, if we look at the chart, I don't think CDPR stock was worth 155, 158 back here in early September. I don't think it was worth that, because all of the stuff that's true today about their future plans was true back then. It was just being bid up by retail investors probably that were excited for the release of the expansion and everything else. And then once that shoe is dropped, everybody's like, oh,
yeah.
So wait, it's not actually worth that.
That's what.
And then they correct.
Yeah, but do you like, because I totally agree with that, and like this is a long term like the best decision for CDPR. Like they're, instead of like shoehorning in a multiplayer mode that is like probably not gonna work, they're putting their resources into The Witcher and really expanding that, and a new Cyberpunk game that we know is also coming. While of course a lot of people from Cyberpunk, after the DLC now is shipped, are working on The Witcher first. So the new Cyberpunk game, very, very far away. But I do think like the 3 million, while costing $100 million investment to make 2.0 and the expansion, appear to be the main reasons. I don't agree with that. So that is what Sin Potato is saying. But it is interesting that 100 million is quite a lot for this stuff. Like, again, I think Mirage probably was that as well. So that's a big investment. Like, I'm curious what the tail will be for this, because 3 million will not be a lot. I think like there's no anime coming anymore. Like, will there be another bump for Cyberpunk? Probably not. And yeah, I mean, the word of mouth is happening, but there's just a ton of stuff happening this year that I'm not sure they're gonna sell much more than what they just did. So is it not like a really big investment for 3 million so far?
I mean, the way I saw it described by an article, I think it was on Seeking Alpha, which is like a finance journal place. But in that article, they phrased it as, it was a guy kind of defending CDPR's strategy, because there are a handful of investors that would have liked them to just walk away from Cyberpunk and move on to the next thing. And then there was another subset that wanted them to work on it to rebuild customer relations and to earn back some of that trust. And I'm of the mind that I think it was cheaper to spend 100 million in 3 years working on 2.0 to win back this favor than 100%. It would have been to try and figure that out with marketing agencies and stuff like that. And that seems to be the impression of executives over at CDPR, that this was the cheapest option. And, you know, they could have avoided this by just releasing a finished game to begin with, but you know, they're trying to deal with what they had before them. So it's certainly expensive, $100 million to get a 2.0 copy for a game a lot of people already own, and to release an expansion that sells 3 million copies. That's a lot of money for seemingly not a lot of like payback. But this was known for years, that they were spending 3 years with hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands and thousands of devs working on or on Cyberpunk when it had already released. And that's why the stock, you know, struggled for a bit after Cyberpunk's launch, because people were like, what are we doing? Like, let's move on. Like, why are we just burning cash? You know, gamers will forget. They have short-term memories. They're fine. Look at what they let
I mean, if they launched Witcher without fixing Cyberpunk, I don't think it had mattered. Yeah, to be honest with you.
I
But I do think the
yeah.
Cyberpunk brand would be done for, and now they can like launch a new game.
Yeah, well, I think that's perhaps the best point, and that's something I hadn't even thought of. Like, it's just the damage to the brand itself. Whereas, like, I agree. I think if they announced The Witcher 4, people would have been like, yeah, Cyberpunk sucked, but The Witcher 4 looks freaking amazing.
Yeah,
It would have been like, all of a sudden would not have cared at all. But yeah, people would not have been that thrilled about a Cyberpunk game coming out again. But now, if you announced Cyberpunk 2078 or whatever it is, people are going to lose their minds. And that alone is worth an investment. It's just...
But then, still though, 3 million for 25 million copies of this game. It's not a lot, to be honest. Like, and of course, like DLC always sells like a fraction. But I do think that of that, like that huge amount of, like, why are not more people, if they really like the game, coming back to it? So it's still like a...
I mean,
is the next,
I was just gonna, like, it's purely anecdotal. I have no stats on it. I know for a fact that, like, my inner circle of friends, like 5-6 people, that all played Cyberpunk when it launched. I'm the only one that's played the expansion so far, but they all are planning on doing it. They're just gonna get to it a little bit later. So I think that Phantom Liberty probably has a slow burn, and especially after the first week, the word of mouth has been crazy high. So I would expect that it continues to grow, but...
And Jinxter said in the chat as well, those were only 1 week sales. That's right, and that is quite a lot. But again, it's like a... what is the tail for this? I haven't looked at like the Steam charts, but I'm not sure if it was still there.
Yeah.
But yeah, interesting stuff. But we will just not hear from CDPR in a long time. But like... I'm, of course, like really looking at it from a business perspective. I'm like super happy because Phantom Liberty is probably top 3 2023 for me in terms of like things that I played. I loved it, especially the side jobs, the gigs. I thought those were amazing. So.
I did too. Even the one that they force you to do for the main story with the cops, that was one of my favorites in the entire game, like full stop. Freaking loved it.
Do they force you to do that? Because that was the only one I did not do yet for the...
Oh, really? It's... Well, I guess they ask you to do 3.
But you can do any one.
But you can do whichever ones you want. Yeah. So,
I did others.
So with this, I mean, if we can kind of shift gears. All told, just to wrap it up, I don't have like... like I said, I like Juicehead. I made fun of him for what I thought was a stupid tweet, which I think is the beautiful thing about Twitter or X, is that if you say something stupid, everybody gets to make fun of you, and then we all learn and grow. So I just think it was a quick tweet he didn't really think about, but after everybody piled on to him, it seems like I think he won't be doing that type of thing again. I just think like a lot of people...
He made great points, but the whole financial disaster was maybe a bit too much.
Yeah, it's just, you can make 9 great points, but if you make one ridiculous one, everybody's just going to hear the one ridiculous one. And I think that's what happened.
One final thing, like I look at the Steam charts right now, so October 10th, Cyberpunk is 6 and the Phantom Liberty DLC is 8, but like things like Baldur's Gate 3 is already above it again.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I pulled up IGN to see the Total War Pharaoh review, and because that launched today, and they still are pumping out Baldur's Gate 3 guides and like best like weapons that you can find in this area. They're still pumping it out, and it's because there's still hundreds of thousands of people playing Baldur's Gate at any given moment. Yeah, it's crazy.
On PC and then on PlayStation and on Xbox, it's not even out yet, which is still gonna happen this year. So it's huge.
Yeah, the game is massive. Speaking about massive games, what's going on with the Last of Us multiplayer game, Joe Raptor?
Yeah, good question. We of course talked about this before already. So we learned just before launch of the part 2 that the factions multiplayer that the first one launched with was not going to be part of part 2, but instead they were going to spin it off into its own big thing. And since then we only heard bad things about it. So last year during Summer Game Fest, Neil Druckmann came on stage and showed the first concept art and was really saying, it's gonna be one of the biggest Naughty Dog products ever, blah, blah, blah. Well, we heard like a few months ago that Bungie who of course is now owned by Sony, went and looked at all the PlayStation live service games that they got coming. They still plan to launch 12 before March 2026. So that's kind of crazy.
Which is
so Bungie,
so many.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
I mean, it's probably less now, you would think, right?
Yeah.
But like Bungie had, of course, a lot with Destiny live service expertise. So they're like, Bungie, help us out here. And they looked at the Lossless multiplayer game and were like, we don't know how you can like maintain this for the long run. Like, what is the live service sort of thing here that will keep people invested? Personally, I would not be surprised if one of the things was like, there's so much like cutscenes and quality, and how are you going to keep that up post-launch? You're not, unless you want to like launch a new expansion every 6 months or something we saw with Avengers. But yeah, now Naughty Dog laid off some contractors, 25 to be exact. All their full-time workers are not impacted by this layoff. They have over 400 people working at Naughty Dog. But yeah, those people are now not at Naughty Dog anymore, the contractors. And that was reported by Kotaku. And in that article, it was basically reported that one of the sources that spoke to Kotaku said that the Lossless multiplayer game is basically on ice. So it's not cancelled, but nothing is happening on it right now. And that's not a good sign. Also, the monetization director that they actually hired from Epic, one of the people that worked on Fortnite Battle Royale to make that the juggernaut that it is today, came to Naughty Dog a year ago, was probably looking at the Lossless multiplayer game. You do that when the game is close to being done. Otherwise, you won't need like a monetization director, I would imagine. Like, you have the game in place. Okay, how are we going to make money? Just after 11 months, he now left Naughty Dog. So I think that's another sign that this game is probably not coming out. And that, I think, is one side of the story. And then let's discuss that. And I think then I will throw in another thing that's just kind of sad with all these single-player developers making these live service games, losing years that like we could have had maybe a new Naughty Dog game already announced at this point if they weren't working on this multiplayer game. But yeah, what do you think of it?
It's just, I mean, I agree. It's so freaking frustrating because it's a world-class studio that is being tasked with a live service something or other. And of course, it's not their bread and butter. It's not what they do. It's not what they specialize in. And so they take a world-class studio that's able to make some of the best games ever made consistently, and then they make them do something they don't want to do. And shocker, it doesn't turn out that great. And we've just seen this time and again. Like, Redfall just got its patch, but that's another example of a studio that knows what they're doing, that were forced to make something they didn't want to do, and it ended up a total disaster. Fallout 76 is another example. Like, it's just so freaking frustrating. Anthem is another fantastic example.
Avengers.
Avengers, yeah. There's a lot I'm noticing. It's just so disappointing, and it's why I have, largely lauded the retirement of Jim Ryan, because any sort of executive that makes these kinds of decisions, I think, is bad for the industry. Like, not letting the most capable devs work on game-changing games is just so frustrating, and it's such a waste of talent and time and money. And you're seeing it now where like they're seemingly not just putting this game on ice, like they're just setting it aside. They might even cancel it. They might have already canceled it, and we're just not going to hear about that until they just hope we forget about it. But it's really, really weird. I mean, maybe they're firing this guy and they're going to replace him with somebody else who has a better idea of how to monetize it. Maybe that was Bungie's concern, was that he wasn't maximizing the potential of the monetization. But I mean, either way, it's not a good sign.
He seemed like a capable person, you would think, right? If you like came from Epic and made Fortnite. Like, I think some people said, like, I think that's hard to check, but that he came up with the battle pass, or so obviously that was already in other games, but how they implemented that in Fortnite. But yeah, that was of course a free-to-play game. I don't think this Lossless multiplayer game would have been free-to-play. It would probably still be like full price and then with a post-launch. But it's sad, and I want to push back a little. I don't think that I do think that Naughty Dog wanted to make this game, but I do think that maybe they had their like vision in mind. Like it was gonna be bigger than the factions modes that we had in the first game, which was basically just a PvP mode. I think you were like with one other player and then fighting other duos. And now, yeah, they wanted to make it much bigger. But I would not be surprised if Sony came in and was like, yeah, but we want to make it even bigger. You're going to be the first live service game that we're going to launch. And maybe that is like Jim Ryan's doing, because he has the money eyes. He wants that Fortnite money, that Genshin Impact money. And that is where things went wrong. But yeah, it kind of sucks, because it is like a big team. There were people that worked on part 2 that have been like working for 3 years on this game. And what if they made a single player game? Then we would have had it next year or the year after. And now that's another rumor. We're getting The Last of Us Part 2 remastered. And then the next game after that will probably be another like a very long time. So it's really sad that we have to lose this to a game that probably was never gonna be great, unless they made it just a simple competitive multiplayer mode that you put out, that you play for a few weeks, and then there's no DLC, no microtransactions. What a concept! But no,
you sound insane right now.
I would be left out of the room if I was like with like all executives.
Like, who's this guy? What is he talking about? Yeah, it's just, man, I mean, the other side of this, and maybe just to play devil's advocate, it is possible. I've gotten heat for saying this in the past for other games. Like, sometimes when they cancel projects or put them on ice and redesign them, sometimes it's for a good reason. Sometimes the game honestly would have been like a Redfall. They came in, saw that it was like that, and said, nope, we're canceling this. We're walking away. And that can be very frustrating for us on the outside, because we don't know what it was like or how it would have played. But sometimes these decisions are actually the right ones. So it's possible that Bungie was looking at it and was honestly just like, guys, it's just not very fun. Like, it's an interesting idea, but it's just not working. This isn't going to keep people connected to it. This could harm your brand. Like, they might have just looked at it and had a very valid opinion. Now, do I think that's most likely? Probably not, because Naughty Dog has a lot of very capable devs, but it very well could have been that this was the right call, and we just don't get to see what it was like. Maybe in 5 years, maybe Jason Schreier will do an article describing what happened. But just play devil's advocate, maybe.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And of course, with the HBO show now, like, having something that could take away from the success of The Last of Us is not a good look. And if this is like a Redfall going from, if it's like worst case scenario, then then that would of course not be great. But it was mostly the part that came out that from Jason Schreier, that it was mostly about keeping players engaged for the long run, that I think rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, including myself, where it was like, does it have to be? I would be down for like exploring San Francisco, where this game was going to be taking place, and with some friends doing like a cool co-op campaign, and then be done with it. But hey, that's not
doesn't seem like they were
like.
It doesn't seem like they loved that idea either.
Nah.
And so instead we're getting a remaster of a game that still looks amazing 3 years after it launched.
Yeah, but they are probably gonna do more things though, because the composer on The Last of Us Part 2, in a Spanish interview, if I'm not mistaken, he said that like at the start of the game in Jackson, you like meet him and he's like playing the like a guitar, and then you could not interact with him. But now in the remastered version, you could like suggest a song that he will then play. So that does seem like they're doing more, but that makes me scared that they're gonna ask $80 for it, or 80 euros.
Without a doubt, I think it's gonna be full price, and they'll showcase a couple little things like, now you can pet the horses and the dogs, and so give us your money. Like, it to me is just frustrating, because The Last of Us Part 1 was already a real stretch for full price, because it was a remake. They remade assets, they redid all these models and stuff. It was rebuilt, but it didn't play like it was. In a lot of cases, like, it really just rubbed people the wrong way. And in this case, I think it's, unless they really surprise people with something, I have the feeling that it's going to just be one of those things where they have a handful of little things they've tweaked. They added cosmetics you get after you finish the story, and it'll just be The Last of Us Part 1 again.
Yeah. Yeah, you can play as Pedro. Pedro skin.
That actually, you know what? I retract everything. That would make it worth it. $70 to play through the whole game as Pedro. That would actually be kind of fun. Or at least a little bit, you know, in all the cutscenes you see Pedro. That would be trippy. That would be trippy. They've got to do that. I bet they do that. Now that you mention it, they've got to. Like for the HBO fans that come over, like having the ability to play with the Pedro skin, like, I think they do.
It would be cool though if they, but that's not gonna work. But if they like incorporated some of the like new scenes that they were going to shoot in the TV show as well, because I think they have it like planned out already. But they're not gonna do that because Part 1 could have included that as well, but did not include any of that.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So let's not expect that. It's probably gonna be way too little for.
Yeah,
way too much.
Expect the bare freaking minimum.
Yeah.
Speaking of expecting the bare minimum, I was expecting that God of War was just sitting on ice until we saw whatever the next big game was. I thought we were just like,
no,
not fully on ice. Yeah, to be clear.
You finished Ragnarok, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because there are like so many hints about like an Atreus game that might be happening, I think. So I totally think that that's what we're getting. Like there are certain like elements that are used only once in that game. And it seemed like just too many like assets and animations and stuff for only one scene in Ragnarok. So I immediately thought, oh, we're gonna see more of that.
It's part of what made it feel so cool is it was like they did all of that for that little bitty sequence. Like what?
But then Jim Ryan came in. We need to get more out of that. They were like, okay,
yes sir.
I'm paying the bills here. But yeah, like that is the rumor right now. It's like a known leaker, quote unquote, that was like talking about. Basically, it seems like Sony, because these AAA games like Spider-Man 2 coming out, of course, next week, took them 5 years to make. Miles Morales, of course, in between that, but that included a different director. So the director on Spider-Man 2 has been working on Spider-Man 1, has been working on 2 for 5 years. Horizon, like all those games took 5 years. So now they're looking at ways to get these games out sooner, and one way to do it is like Uncharted Lost Legacy. Or so these kind of smaller games that you finish way faster. Like Mirage is actually, in a way, a good example of that as well. It seems like God of War is gonna get that as well. So they're calling it a half sequel. And I mean, we had the Snitch, which like a very like credible leaker as well, talking about Ragnarok getting DLC, and I think it makes sense. Like it's probably not gonna be DLC. It's probably gonna be a standalone thing, maybe $50. Although Sony will do something to probably get more money out of you. And yeah, it makes sense before we go to a new mythology or whatever with God of War. I think it makes sense that they once more like use the Norse mythology stuff with Atreus and have us walked. Like my prediction is that it's launching next year with the PS5 Pro, because what else does Sony have like of that caliber next year? Probably
that's fair. Yeah, that's very fair. And then maybe they pair The Last of Us remaster with it, and so they have at least a couple things that they can use in the trailers.
Exciting.
Yeah. Man.
I'm like, I see a lot of people like excited about these half sequels, and I mean, it makes sense that you got something cool to play right now, but for me, it always like there are just no memorable moments for me from Lost Legacy. Like you really notice the sort of budget they have, that they could not go all out. And I'm just afraid that all these half sequels will feel like that. So I prefer it if they just worked on like a bigger game that hopefully then launches a year earlier or something like that, instead of doing these small things in between. But
I mean, it's just these big AAA. I mean, at this point, they reach even quadruple A status. They're just so freaking expensive. I can understand why they want to capitalize on it. I mean, you think of just Spider-Man and then Spider-Man Miles Morales. They spend so much time and money developing those tool sets and building out New York City and all this stuff. Like, why not just create like a little smaller story and then sell it for 40-50 bucks and pocket the cash. Like, I'm sure they made a profit on Miles Morales, and I would,
100%. That sold really well. It
Yeah.
was like a launch title as well, which of course,
yeah,
So again, I think God of War as a launch title makes sense too. Sorry.
it makes a lot of sense. We'll see if they do something similar for like The Last of Us. I don't know how they would do that. I mean, honestly, I would play a half sequel with like it explores Tommy and Joel's time before, like between the events of the outbreak and when they split. You know, that could be really, really cool. I'd be down to do something like that. So I'm open to it. I'm not like turned off by it. Especially if like it's priced appropriately. I get thrown off if it's like $70 freaking dollars and then it's the same price as like the big one that's just as epic. But if it comes
they will
out for
just
50
raise
bucks,
the price of the big one. They will raise the price.
they'll move that to 90 or 100 bucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. But yeah, that is kind of where we're at right now. With these games, but like it makes sense. Like Miles Morales, they made this whole character that they're now reusing in Spider-Man 2, so they're getting way more out of all the things that they created. So makes sense from that perspective.
Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, that's kind of what that's the end of it.
There's one more thing we can mention just because it happened. And I just want to hear your thoughts, honestly. There was kind of a surprise, not so much a surprise announcement, which was an update to the PlayStation 5. And this is, I'll just throw it up on screen, a brand new, I think it's, is it two separate SKUs or is it one SKU with the disk drive you buy separately?
I think you can, but because the disk drive is $80 separately, so you can like buy it separately. So you can just join only for the digital model, but you now have an option to upgrade, and you have the regular model that has the detachable disk drive already in the box. It seems like.
Yeah, it's a little bit smaller. I believe it was in terms of volume about 30% smaller. In terms of weight, it's about 18% smaller. Most of these mid-gen upgrades are done to basically like make shipping more efficient, more cost effective. And when you're shipping tens of millions of units, it adds up to have the weight decrease by 18%. Like that saves a lot of money. Like the volume being smaller, that saves money because you can put it out in smaller packages, so you can ship more units in one shipment in a freighter or something. So it does make sense. It does add up. What rubbed me the wrong way though was this freaking thing. This little stand, it was included in the previous PS5. This stand now is another $30 if you want to buy the stand to put it vertically.
Do you use the stand though? Because I saw a lot of people were like, "Ooh," and I'm like, I never use the stand, and I still have it up.
I do, and
like
this is pure speculation. This is full conspiracy theory mumbo jumbo. Okay, so buckle up. Are you buckled? I'm buckled. Okay.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised at all, since they're selling this separately, if they added in a bulge on the bottom of it to make it so it doesn't stand vertically by itself without the stand. I'd put like $100 on that. I think
maybe
they did
because of the detachable
like
disk drive or something.
Or
whatever.
And they'll come up with some excuse for it, why they had to do it. But they're selling you the stand. They're selling you the solution to a problem that isn't really a problem, because the current PS5 you can just set flat on the table. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's easy.
I would totally buy that they added like a little bulge in the black section right there or something to make it so you can't stand it without paying the $30.
I was like holding my PS5. You did not really see it, but there's I can like just put it on the ground and don't have to worry about it. Like I did not use the stand, but it does suck. And they are showing it in pictures, and I have to look at the other pictures if they were using the stand for like the older PS5 as well. But it does look like a different stand as well. So you might be right there, which is like, oh my God, Sony.
Yeah.
Always the extra purchase.
If I try to like really zoom in on it, we go enhance. Like it looks like there actually is a cutout slightly on the bottom, this little black section right here.
Oh my God, yeah, it's different.
I think they have a little bulge, so it will not stand vertically unless you pay $30 for
then
the
it
stand.
fits in that sort of thing. Oh my god!
I think
by
they
the way,
did that very
get
intentionally.
some donations, so maybe you can like.
Oh yeah, I could do that. Sorry, I'll
go
stop
for them before you have to leave.
I'll stop with my conspiracy theories. Let's thank you everybody for the super chats real quick. Drinner, thank you for the 2. Yes, I agree with the idea of Luke's bulge. Thank you. I agree with Luke's bulge. Can we get an I agree with Luke's bulge in the chat, please?
Bulgegate.
Let's see. Stefan, thank you also earlier. This was like 45 minutes ago. I'm sorry it took us a while. Anyone thinking that CDPR is, quote, not doing well, end quote, is deluded. CDPR is literally sinking their feet in American soil right now for future projects they grow. Yeah, the thing is, like, stock prices are... Like, of course, if the stock price rises, the people who run the company are happy. But like, if Apple's stock drops by 20% today, it's the same company that it was yesterday. It's just those shares of the company's ownership have changed value today for whatever reason. But other than issuing new shares for additional like capital to expand and things like that, it doesn't matter that much. It's just investors' opinions of what the company is worth. And right now, CDPR's value is dropped a little because they are expanding, but expanding's expensive. And guess what? Interest rates are rising. It's more expensive to expand now. They have no cash coming in. So they're going to have to do that on debt that's more expensive now than it was 3 years ago. So again, it's not rocket science. This is all pretty straightforward. And the stock price adjusts to where it needs to be today based on the value of the company today. And in the future, it will rise as they start getting more stuff lined up. Like it just happens, but it's not like the stock price is dropping because of a singular thing that's happened. It's a suite of things that makes CDPR particularly vulnerable, and the stock price is adjusting as a result. So nothing crazy.
But yeah, in 5 years won't matter because they will probably be fine if Witcher launches and is good. Oh boy.
Oh baby.
Like, buy those stocks now. They will only go up.
Oh, dude, can you imagine?
Maybe not now. Wait a few years and then.
Yeah,
just before the Witcher 4, when there are like rumors Witcher 4 is gonna get announced at Summer Game Fest, then buy.
Oh man, dude, I will.
Not financial advice.
Not financial advice. I usually can keep it together with like hype and excitement and stuff when things are announced. Like, oh well, we'll keep our eyes on it. We won't get too crazy because hype makes you stupid. But man, when they announce The Witcher 4, I'm gonna need you to like hold me down. I'm gonna lose it. Dude. It's gonna be bad. I'm just warning everybody. Yeah. Don't believe anything I say with The Witcher 4.
I hope they wait though for like when it's like 1 year till release. I don't want to like have a trailer every year that shows us basically.
Yeah, I think a lot of studios are gonna be doing that now. It seems like that's the current goal. Like even with Naughty Dog, they have stuff that they could probably show now of whatever Neil Druckmann's working on. Like they could do a little cinematic trailer or something. Remember when they announced God of War Ragnarok and it was just like the logo?
Yeah, but that was like the start of the PS5 generation. They had to like build anticipation.
Yeah,
but that was like a trailer of nothing. I was like, it's coming. Okay, we did not know that.
Yeah, what? Yeah. But like I think a lot of studios and publishers seem to be moving away from the announce it 3 years ahead of time strategy, because we've 100%. Seen like Hellblade, Senua's. What is the new one called? The second one?
Saga.
That's it. That one's been announced since what was it? 2019 that they announced it.
Yeah, that was also like a console thing though. It was also like, and we're doing Hellblade 2.
Yeah.
Please look forward to it. 2024.
Yeah, it's been forever, and that last trailer
5 years.
Was terrible.
5 years.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh dude, everybody's got amazing titles for games in the chat. Bulge Combat, Dragon's Bulge, Dark Arisen, Play on the Bulge Deck, Bulge Rising, Bulge City, Super Bulge Brothers, Elden Bulge, Avatar Bulges of Pandora, Divinity Original Bulge, Hell Bulge 2, Spider Bulge, Bulge City. I love you guys. Well, I think we call it there. Thank you everybody for hanging out with us. I'm gonna move the studio. We're gonna.
Yeah. Good luck with the move. And Guitar Hero is coming back as well. I'm looking at the title now for the first time. I'm like, okay, yeah, we should maybe have talked about that, but.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Guitar Hero. Bobby Kotick basically said while being interviewed by James Corden for some reason at a corporate event. Or a corporate meeting that was streamed to employees. He said that the return of Guitar Hero would not be possible without Microsoft, which implies there is a return coming, which honestly, I'm all here for it.
Same.
I love
thought
Guitar
Live
Hero.
was actually pretty good.
You thought what?
Live, the last game they did.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, I think it's such a bummer that they've just been sitting on that franchise. People still love Guitar Hero. The controllers and stuff sell for hundreds of dollars, at least.
Yeah,
here in the
okay, but
States.
if you launch one skin in Warzone, you make more money. So hey, you gotta give it to them, right?
That's true. Makes sense. It makes sense. But man, if they announce at E3 or something that Guitar Hero's back, oh man, I'm gonna lose it.
Damn, you're gonna lose it a lot. So of course, keep checking the podcast. Luke will lose it, guaranteed, once a month.
Quote of the day, Joe Raptor. Damn, Luke's gonna lose it a lot.
So thanks for listening. Thanks everyone in the chat for participating.
Yeah, absolutely.
Watching, of course. Next week we will be back. Or is the studio then set up at your place?
It's we're gonna move everything over there from here, and we're gonna probably stream on Friday and Saturday. Trying to set stuff up. So hopefully,
that would be cool.
We'll have some stuff. So we'll see.
Yeah, then we can talk about Spider-Man next week because the embargo is on Monday.
It's on Monday. Okay, I thought it was Friday.
Yeah.
Somebody on Twitter was like, "If you got to review Spider-Man." Is anybody free on Friday to talk about it on a podcast or something? So
yeah, but then they are going to publish it on Monday probably.
Yeah. Oh, I see what you mean. So they're recording it, not streaming it. Okay, I got you. Anyway, much love, everybody. You guys are amazing. I love you all dearly.
Yes. Thanks, everyone.
And we'll see you in the next one.
Bye. Bye.